3, 2, 1. And 3,
3,
2.
5, 8.
Did you clap after that, though?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's fine. As long as you clapped, I don't care. Once you after the first two, it should be fine. I'll figure it out. Welcome, Quiggles.
Welcome.
I had a joke for this. I had the hardest hitting joke, and I'm gonna say it because we're not live.
Okay.
But this arc, so we're back for One Piece.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at Thriller Bark, and we're gonna do this one probably vastly different because I think this show highlights something that Oda has done better than any other shonen artist or manga that I have ever watched or read before.
Mm-hmm.
So I now have the perfect way to summon you.
What?
There's a hot master swordsman with meat.
Yes. Thank God.
Thank you for laughing at that. I heard that and I was like, oh, this is either going to land really well or, oh, you're going to come through this monitor at me.
No, but I love master swordsmen who are very hot and have meat on a plate for me.
That's where we were going with that. Yeah, oh God, where do we start? Typically for these, we'd start at the beginning, and summarize it, and kind of go through the arcs of this one as well. Mm-hmm. Knowing that this is, this is episode. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, we can't really do that. This is probably going to be a short episode because it's Thriller Bark, and as we all know, nothing happened.
I have been so perplexed at the amount of memes and inside jokes. Because this is only what? This is arc number 5?
I'd say like saga number 5, yeah.
And like I want to say we're only 300 episodes in. We're like I'm over a third of the way through the manga or through the anime now. But the other thing is like, hey, Luffy finds a new villain. Is he gonna win? Yes, because he's in an episode 1,000 episodes later. So I'm just assuming Luffy's okay.
You just need to know how is all.
And I think that's kind of where I just want to go in with this, because I think what this episode does, or this saga, the Thriller Bark saga does better than any other shonen, is give me a reason that the villain or the antagonist is where they are currently.
Right.
I'm thinking through like DBZ, I'm going through Naruto, I'm going through Jujutsu Kaisen less so now that like I'm rewatching it. But it always felt like in DBZ it was like, okay, Goku's not here. Somebody comes in, just they literally come into the world and it's like, nope, they beat them up. Oh, don't worry, I'm not even that strong. There's somebody stronger. Or then it's like, oh, this scientist made somebody stronger. And it feels like villains are introduced, even going so far to like My Hero Academia kind of does that too, where it'll be like, this is, here's just this new villain, and they're just ridiculously strong for whatever reason, but it never felt like we would have met them organically, and they kind of had to be written in because the characters needed somebody new to fight. The only anime manga, which, how far are you into Hunter x Hunter?
I'm still just like at the end of York New. So I haven't like done Greed Island yet.
Okay.
So.
Have you had the fights? Have Killua and Gon been through the tower?
They have.
Okay.
Heaven's Arena.
Yeah, Heaven's Arena? Yes, okay. I didn't want to, like, give out names without... All right. So this is now to me going to be like where I'm going to be drawing most of my parallels, because a lot of, like I said, DBZ has a lot of manufactured villains, and you're like, who's this guy? I don't know, but he's new and stronger.
Yeah.
One Piece gives me a reason that the villain is where they are in regards to Luffy's journey. So
it's kind of a, honestly, it's kind of a genius thing to make your, like, entire shonen, the entire point of it, just an adventure. So that way Luffy goes to the next important place, and that is where our important villain is. It's just sort of like, and Gecko Moria isn't, like, the only example of this. You see that also with stuff like Crocodile, Wapol, Arlong, NL, and yeah, and there's even going to be ones like coming up for you that are basically where it's like the island that Luffy and crew land on, that is the enemy territory essentially. So it's kind of a genius way, instead of just having the plot just run up to Luffy and say, I'm the new bad, come kill me. And I think that's just a bit more fascinating. And you see, like, through how the villain does actually, like, take over, and what, like, the world under their influence would look like, that's insanely fascinating to me.
And this also made me appreciate the villains as characters and as ideals more. So you made a great point talking about Crocodile, going all the way back to, let's go all the way back to Buggy to kind of like drive this point home, and then get to Moria. So right now, the overall goal for the One Piece crew is get to the New World. And I'm even going to draw in a little bit of Blackbeard with this, and then Shanks, Whitebeard, and a few others in here to kind of solidify this point. So Luffy fights Buggy. I'm going to start with him as like the first real pirate, because the
kind
crew...
of is like the first real example of this.
Yeah. Aside from like Kobe with his whole mishap, but even Kobe's a great foil for this, right?
For sure.
So we meet Buggy, and Buggy is just Luffy, but for another crew. He is his own Luffy. He has his own goals. But when we see him compared to Luffy, we instantly see how different Luffy is fundamentally than Buggy, which is why he's able to beat him. Like Buggy's like, ha, I'm a clown. I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna, defeat this town. And Luffy's like, this town is small. They don't deserve this, but this is not where I want to end up. So he goes through Buggy. Then we get to Arlong. Arlong is this incredibly... it's like, holy shit, people are this strong. He's the fish person. He does fishman karate. The magic is probably in here. And then it's like, but Arlong's just a bully who has a talent under his thumb and doesn't want much more. And so Luffy wants more than Arlong, defeats him. And then we do the same thing. We can do this ad nauseum. Like, we get to Crocodile, and I'm like, Crocodile is such a great villain. And I wanna addend that statement as him as my favorite villain. He's my favorite villain for Luffy at where he is in his journey and who Luffy is.
I can see that.
Because I will now say Moria is equally as good of a villain as Crocodile for where Luffy is on his journey. And not even Luffy, but the rest of the Straw Hats. Because I felt like what this arc does is, this arc, like, Luffy comes in to save the day, but this arc shows us, like, Water 7 Knees Lobby, we got Usopp to have all of his growth. Thriller Bark, we got the skill check for the rest of the One Piece crew, rest of the Straw Hat crew.
Yes.
And it was, you all are wanting.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, like, kind of like the huge point in all of this is that, like, Moria and kind of like a lot of the rest of his crew are sort of like parallels to the Straw Hats of like, if they just give up on their dreams, they are going to essentially just end up like them. Essentially.
Oh, I can totally see that. Mm-hmm. That is,
so like,
and you see that
it's kind of like a dark future for them, kind of, which is something that you kind of see in the manga through like some extra sketches that Oda does, but here is like probably like the only like real time you see, oh, if Luffy just gives up on being the Pirate King, he's gonna end up like Moria. And that's kind of like a bad timeline because, you know, Moria works for the world government technically, and he's just kind of a lazy bones who just like has other people fight for him, and he basically rules Thriller Bark with an iron fist, which is not what Luffy's about at all.
And like, one, I also love the fact that the last episode or the last season was it was a politically charged season, right? This is, hey, what are we, you know, what's going on in the world at large? Who is the world at large? What is the world government? What are things like that? And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then the next arc, Oda's like, okay, we did the secret agent arc, you know, Luffy has to take on secret agents, and the Straw Hat crew does that. And now it's like, hey, what if the Straw Hats sailed into the Bermuda Triangle? like what? Yeah. Like, oh no, like, ghost ship, spooky things happen here. Mm-hmm. Haunted
Let's just
park.
make the entire like first act just Scooby-Doo, basically.
I am so happy that I got, like I said, I didn't realize the zombie being pushed down thing. I thought that was like so much later.
Nope.
And so I'm watching this for like behind the scenes, guys. I'm watching this on Crunchyroll, and Crunchyroll has episodes that have been like touched up and episodes that have not been touched up yet. So there are points where I'm like, oh, are we post time skip? And you're like, no. I'm like, why does this episode look so much cleaner than the rest of the show has looked? And then like the next episode will go back. So it's a weird. I'm also watching this completely subbed, guys. I'm not watching this dubbed because it's not the 4K edition, so I don't think it deserves that.
I will say there is like one moment that I think you should kind of like watch dubbed, but like, and you could probably like guess what I'm talking about in terms of it. But
shoot the flag.
You're not necessarily that moment, but I mean like from this arc, and it's the song. Yeah.
Oh, is this the Straw Hat Crew rap? I can now watch it.
No, I mean the song that plays in the arc at the end.
Ooh,
Binks's Sake.
I will.
Or Binks's Brew if you're watching dubbed.
Oh, Binks's. I do love Binks's Brew. I've watched that both ways. So yes, that one is
okay. Good.
Yeah, that one is fantastic. But yeah, so the whole now that I kind of summarize it, the Straw Hat Crew ends up on an island, or what they think is an island. They get sucked into it after meeting Brook, who is a skeleton, who tells them the tale of his shadow got stolen, and if you don't have a shadow,
you can't hit sunlight.
You can't touch sunlight. You kind of vampire, melt. Which to me is, I was like, oh, that's really cool, because we haven't seen a lot of supernatural, I would say, in this.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of it can be explained, and this is the first arc that I'm like, ooh, what's going on? And we're also here is where Chopper finds... Oh my god, now that you've said that, uh, the rest of the show is starting to like come together for me, where like Chopper discovers Dr. Hogback,
Yes.
who is this brilliant doctor that he's like, oh my god, you have no idea, like he was trying to cheat death so that people could have like another day or two with their loved one to say proper goodbyes and like have people die on their terms. And when you're listening to that, I'm like, oh, that sounds like actually kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Like but as it goes on, you're like, no, he is...
Oh, don't be like Hogback.
Yeah, and now that you said that, it's like, no, this is the dark timeline, you know, we're going, this is Zelda or Link losing to Ganon in Ocarina of Time. I was like, oh, this is now Majora's Mask territory.
Yeah.
And yeah, he wants to go find Hogback. They go to a castle where there's zombies. Everything's a zombie. And then we learn that like the rest of the Straw Hats, like, we're going to go save them. Two, I love the fact that their super move is called Jackpot. Hold on one second. When did because this is the first time we've actually heard Jackpot come out, right?
I think so, yeah. It might be.
Devil May Cry release date. You know, the original Devil May Cry came out in 2001, so there's a good chance.
And Oda does
that
like,
Oda
video games a little bit, so I don't know if like he is like inspired by Devil May Cry in any way.
Jackpot. Yeah, I just, but seeing them do the 600 million, is that million? No, 600 billion, right?
I think so. Wait, 600 billion what?
Million. Jackpot.
Million?
That's their, 600 million jackpot. And they find the old man who's not a zombie, and it surprises everyone. And we learn that Gecko Moria is the captain on this one, who has a higher bounty than Luffy and is one of the warlords of the sea.
Yep.
And yeah.
And kind of like
shenanigans and
adding this in when we say like the crew like kind of split up, we say that like Chopper, Nami, and Usopp basically went to the island first on the Mini Mary, while everybody else like came in after them once like they didn't return, basically.
I love the fact that the Mary is getting representation and love.
She's still with them in spirit.
It means so much to me that she actually is. Because like the more we get to explore the Thousand Sunny, the more that everyone's name is now escaping me.
What?
Well, no, not even that. Like, Frankie has endeared himself to me with him being like, no, I'm going to build you the ship that you guys want, takes everything into consideration that they have.
Yeah.
But
Chopper
then still
has,
goes...
like, his own little office. That's really cute.
But then still sits there and goes, but the ship is going to grow with you. And the ship is something that you will continue to grow into. Whereas the Mary was like, they very quickly exceeded the Mary, and the Mary was not a fit ship for them because of how big they were becoming and what they were doing. But that doesn't mean that the Mary wasn't a good ship, and the Mini Mary is still something that's like, hey, you guys can use this so well, and it will fill the purpose that the Mary had for you, which for the most part was carrying supplies. Like, they lived on it, but it was a supply carrier, whereas the Thousand Sunny is like, this is the ship
everything
of the Pirate King.
Need. Yeah.
Yes. but yeah, but getting here to this fight, I kind of want to jump ahead because you're right. This one is going to be a shorter one. It is very cut and dry.
Mm-hmm. And we
But
only have one arc this time.
We do, yeah. It
For
wasn't
the
cutting
first
through
time.
3 of them. But when we meet Moria, and we really kind of get to see who he is quite grotesque. And we get to see like how much of a monster that everyone else is for this team. Now that you've said that like they're the dark timeline, I cannot unsee it.
It's honestly, it fucked me up the first time I heard it, because admittedly, this arc, for the longest time, it's kind of like changed a little bit now, was kind of seen as like a bad arc in One Piece, or like at least one of the lesser ones. But then once people started to realize, oh wait, this is like the bad timeline Straw Hats, that kind of made it a bit better for people, namely like with Moria and Luffy. But I don't know. I've kind of like in more recent years kind of like drawn parallels between like Chopper Hogback, Perona and Kumasi, and Nami and Usopp, Absalom and Sanji, etc.
And you saying that like this arc wasn't beloved, like the second we got there, and I was like, oh cool, we're getting another fun like pirate ghost ship adventure. I was like, I think that you need the palate cleansers. I think after something like Water 7 and Knees Lobby, where you're like, okay, let's just like, even when you're like, so full disclosure, I watched all of this, like the last like 30 episodes, like in my trailer at work, or I was in public. Like Brooke's story with Laboon, beautiful, did not make me tear up at all, because I'm like, awesome, Laboon confirmed, we know who Laboon's crew is, and I was like, oh, 6 degrees of separation, this is how we're all connected. But
and also, fun fact, we actually do see the Rumbar Pirates ship for a few teaser images for the live action season 2.
Huh.
So that's going to be interesting to see. People who are like new to One Piece see the Rumbar Pirates and go, oh, okay. And then everybody who has like gone up to this point in the anime or manga see the Rumbar Pirates and go, oh, I'm shedding tears already.
Yeah. But like so one of the things here where you said you're right, like this is the next adventure that Luffy's on, and he just runs into the next like hurdle that he has to get through. So the parallel I want to draw from this is like, if we go from Dragon Ball Z, right? So Raditz shows up, beats up Goku. It takes Goku and Piccolo to defeat him, right? And you're like, oh shit, this is really, this is really real. And then it's like, but there are 2 other Saiyans who are even stronger than him that are like on the way, and you're like, okay, so there are stronger versions of this warrior race, and you're like, okay, this is cool, and you know, we get Vegeta and Nappa, but it like they just kind of get thrown at you, and Goku is just like, hey, by the way, I'm now stronger because I died and came back.
Yeah.
And then very quickly after that, so if we were to look at that from like, okay, we went from Buggy to Arlong, and you're like, okay, that would be a pretty adequate jump to go from Buggy, who is a pirate with a devil fruit, to Arlong, who's a fishman without a devil fruit, but they're a whole separate property. And then it's like you go to Frieza, and it's like, yeah, but no one stands up to Frieza. And I haven't felt like at any point in One Piece that it's just like, why is this person randomly so strong?
Yeah. I think like the closest thing you get to that is like the Gear 2 reveal, but even then you can kind of like make it out with like, okay, Luffy just like got creative off screen with his devil fruit.
Yeah, and Gear 3 is Gear 3 the giant inflated bone Luffy?
Yes.
Okay. The gear system still kind of like throws me for a bit. Um,
You get used to
but
it.
yeah, and I'm sure once because I've seen like the black arm version of him that's like super beefy and looks a
Mhm.
little different. Because I have friends that have it as their background on their
Of
phones. They're
course.
like, "Oh, that's a cool look."
Hmm.
But when we go to, like I said, every villain so far has been like, I see why you're here, right?
Hmm.
So we get to Crocodile. I'm like, oh my god, Crocodile's such an insane villain. He wants to take over a country and like fully seat himself with the power of the world government.
Hmm.
But he's an aristocrat. Like don't like I'm not saying that he's not strong. He's not a
Hmm.
capable fighter, but you can see where Luffy will outclass him because Luffy isn't just like, okay, I conquered an island and now I'm king of the island.
Right.
And so you see that that's why he has to then like that's why he has to beat, Crocodile. And the
Hmm.
rest of the Straw Hats are also like, well, this is why we have to beat our counterparts on his team. We're not
Hmm.
here to like Nami's like, I'm not here to map Alabasta. I'm mapping the world.
Yes.
Zoro, I swordsman, Sanji,
Hmm.
I want to find the all, like everyone has this grand dream,
Hmm.
and every villain that we've met has been like, okay, I hit this point, and this is the point where I'm stopping.
Yes.
And that, like, this Moria to me shows that off more than anyone else.
I
But
agree.
he also highlights that, hey, he's not different than any villain that we've seen previously.
Hmm.
Um,
I
to
agree with that.
Yeah,
He's I would say like even though he's not my favorite villain, I do think he is like a bit underrated a little bit. Just because I also just think he has like a really cool devil fruit power.
his devil fruit power. So hold on, what is his?
It's like the shadow fruit. I'm pretty sure where it's
Yes.
like he can like cut off your shadow from your being, and then basically if you hit sunlight after your shadow's been cut, then basically you evaporate in the sun, and then he can like give your shadow to like something else, and that thing can just like become a zombie.
And I I'm sitting here like looking that up real quick because you're right. It is fantastic.
Hmm.
Quick seconds. Um,
Oh,
sorry.
oh.
Um, did I cut off?
You coughed, I think.
Oh, yes, I did cough.
uh,
Tea down the wrong pipe. Um,
oh, okay.
but even when his fruit was cool.
Mhm.
The shadow fruit, and I like how that's different than the dark fruit that Blackbeard has.
Yes,
Um,
because they're
because they're
very different fruits.
they're they are, but there's a lot of times where I'm like, is this the foreshadowing to what it's going to be like to fight Blackbeard? Because we kind of got to see like a taste of what Blackbeard can do
Hmm.
at the end of the Water 7 in Ini's lobby arc, where it's like,
Yeah.
no, he can consume everything in darkness,
Hmm.
and Moria has consumed everything in darkness in his area.
Pretty
Um,
much. Like, in the sense that, like, Thriller Bark is like a very dark and dreary, like, ship, essentially.
mm-hmm.
That's ship island, kind of. It's basically an artificial island now that you think about it.
Yeah,
But, um, basically, he already has, like, his territory, and he's just kind of chill with it, just being that. And So like any intruders on that is gonna basically going to be a problem for him, since he just wants to do the bare minimum to just not get hunted by the world government.
And I like the fact that he says it later on, towards the end of his fight with Luffy. So I'm just jumping here for the audio listeners to kind of highlight the point of where Moria is compared to everybody else that we've seen so far. Moria sits there, and I think he looks at Luffy and goes, "Do you know why I have a crew full of zombies? It's because when one of them die or they can't be used anymore, I can just cut them apart and make another."
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those moments where you're like, "Oh, this is the ruthless form of Luffy. This is the form of Luffy that doesn't care about his crew." And
Right.
also, I would say for most of the fight that Luffy has, Moria doesn't fight. You're right. He lays there.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls up his shadow form, does his shadow bats, creates
It's
a
not
giant.
till like the very end when he has to that he's actually like fighting. Since most of this climactic battle is a mech fight.
Oh my god, it is. Zombie Luffy though, great aesthetic, super here for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of so the way that the shadows are described in this world, because it's like, okay, Moria, he cuts the shadow, and then Dr. Hogback would sew him a creature, or be like, hey, I've compiled all this together, and we're gonna create, using these shadows, it'll pilot this creature. And the shadow that you put in there retains some of like who it is. And they might even, remember things, because the shadow is essentially part of a person's soul.
Yeah.
Is how he described it.
You could kind of like just replace the word shadow with soul, and you could kind of get like the same feel. Kind of like with like Kingdom Hearts, you have like everybody has a heart, but really it's like not your physical heart, it's just like your soul in that regard.
Yeah. Then you take away your heart, you get a heartless, but it also creates a nobody, which is like the empty vessel.
Yes. Meanwhile, like, that's kind of sort of the same thing here. Maybe that's why I never hated this arc, actually. Because I just like Kingdom Hearts.
But then they also do the vampire thing where it's like, by the way, when your shadow's taken, it also counts as your reflection. So the soul does get sucked out of anyone that Moria has defeated, and you learn that there are these ships that are on the island, and all these other pirates who have had their souls, and they're just trying to live, but they can't come out during the day. They don't have what it takes to fight Moria, and they can't get their own shadows back. And it's like, okay, this is the point. This is almost you've never played like a Dark Souls game, have you?
I played some Elden Ring, but that's about it.
Okay.
I haven't touched the Souls games specifically.
There's a fan theory, because you know how the whole premise is like the worlds are converging there, and that's why you can see shadows of other players that aren't necessarily in your world. In the original Dark Souls game, they were like, oh, well, how do these hollows happen, right? And they said, oh, all the people that like quit playing the game because it was too hard, they couldn't beat it, they essentially hollowed out, and their character is now stuck and is one of the random things that like you might fight on top of a bridge that used to be a guard, because they hit a point, they were like, I can't do this, I can't beat this game, it's too hard, or I don't enjoy it. And it was the canonic reason that this happened. And you'll even go through the game and you'll fight enemies that are in the starting armor, and it's like, oh, that's where that version of me made it to. So if I chose the bandit, which is what I do because he's an axe, I can find where the bandit canonically dies.
Right. Okay, that's cool.
And that is Thriller Bark for, because we got to see that with, the Rumbar Pirates. We got to see that with the
well, we see that with Brooke, not the rest of the Rumbar Pirates. They die.
That's fair.
For a different reason.
But we also got to see that with oh god, what was the boar's name?
Oh, is it Lola?
Lola.
Yeah.
Lola is a pirate, and you kind of get to see. So she's this zombie boar person who fights with two swords in a wedding dress. Yeah. And she makes no sense other than the fact that she loves like the first or second mate, Absalom, and like is constantly trying to marry him, and then gets really upset at Nami for stealing, the love of her life away from her. Which, by the way, Nami in this entire arc for just being like, hey, Lola, I'm really sorry. I'm a guy. My name is Namino. And like, what? But you're like, yeah, I like to feel. And it was just one of those things where I was like, ah. And like, I was rooting for you guys. And then Lola's like, can you be my gay best friend? And she's like, yeah, I'll be your gay best friend. And it's like, I was like, what? Fight solved. Gay best friend unlocked. Like,
pretty much. I forgot about that, honestly.
But then you learn that this is where, like, the souls of, like, because you find Lola's person later. You find her shadow, who is like, she's been hiding and she's going to help Luffy out. And then at the end of that arc, she goes, huh, Namino, I don't know why I just called you that. I feel like I've known you for a long time, though. And you learn that the shadows have, like, a lived experience, and when you join, you get some of that memory.
Right. It's kind of sweet, honestly. And Lola is a character who, like, you kind of do have to remember because she does get brought up way later. Way later. But, yeah, it's kind of crazy, like, just how much detail is given just to, like, the shadows themselves, since you do kind of also see, the shadows, like, get the personality of, like, the original person, because Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji all lose their shadows this arc at some point. And you do see that, like, Luffy's gets put into Oars, this, like, behemoth, like, villain, giant that everybody has to, like, fight up against, while Zoro and Sanji's shadows just, like, go into, like, these little, like, mooks, and they just bicker with each other the entire time.
I did like that it also said, like, the shadow will eventually succumb to Moria. Like, if you're away from your person so long, it will happen. But then there were times where, like, because, like, Oars or Giant Luffy was going, like, I'm going to be zombie king of the pirates. Because he's like, I'm a zombie. I at least know that now. But then he's also, like, trying to do his gum, and he goes, my arms stretch. Why couldn't they? So one of the things that really, what you said that highlighted this was Zoro has a fight with another cursed blade user, is what I want to call him.
Ryoma, I'm pretty sure is his name.
From the land of Wano, which is where a lot of people say that they're waiting for me. And
you'll get there eventually.
Oh, this thing goes by so quickly right now. I see myself getting there sooner rather than later. But we learned that he has Brooke's shadow in him. And Brooke, it turns out, so Skeleton Brooke, who my only real issue with him is can I see your panties?
Yeah.
So when you guys hear me go, and then Brooke came in and said, hey, can you lend me money? That is canonically now what Brooke says. Thank you for giving me that one. I appreciate it, Mark. Because I was so disappointed.
Yeah. I'm never I don't really care about the gag that much. I will say currently, like in the past couple of arcs of One Piece, whenever like Brook's on screen, I think he like rarely ever does it, if I'm being honest. So I think like, and this gag is going to stick around for quite a while, I will say right now. But I will say it doesn't cross the line into just like sexual assault or anything. Or
Thank God.
yeah, like Oda has restraint here, unlike certain other mangakas. Uh, but it doesn't really like get that far. And at a certain point, I don't want to say it's like dropped because like it could, like we could just get like the next chapter and Brooke is singing a song all about panties. But it's I don't know. It comes off like every now and again, and I don't know. I've always associated Brooke more with like the bone puns and like, oh, I'm a skeleton, yo, kind of deal. I don't know why I sounded like Mario for a little bit, but whatever.
No, you actually, I thought you had the tone for him really well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for the skeleton. Like, oh, I'm worked to the bones, but since I'm a skeleton, I already am. But like, give me that. It is so.
Yeah.
It's a charming level of terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But because I know you've said like I've had a few people tell me like, hey, kind of get ready for Sanji to relapse a little bit.
A little bit, like, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, but Sanji's been doing so good. Like, what do you mean?
I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people like kind of make it out to be. Admittedly, again, you're never gonna see like at a certain point Sanji just unprompted slaps Nami on the ass or something.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah. Or like trying to like grab Robin's titty or something.
Thank God for that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but like
I'd be more scared of him doing that to Robin than
than Nami.
Than Nami, yeah. I've seen how Robin can make men do whatever she needs them to do.
Oh, for sure.
But the
But yeah, this arc is like when a lot of people kind of think, okay, this is like when Sanji like gets quote unquote like character assassinated. I don't think it's that serious. The moment that people always will bring up is his fight against Absalom, because he does fight Absalom this arc. And
yes.
Absalom's whole deal is that he has the clear fruit, which lets him turn invisible. And Sanji's just sort of like, oh, if I knew there was a clear fruit, I knew I would have to eat it no matter what. Because, and then you kind of like get the whole
all
like,
the good I could do, but peak on women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And here's the thing, I don't like the joke, but mostly because it's not like it soils Sanji for me, but because the joke just like goes on for too long. I think
it is like a 4-minute joke, isn't it?
It's so fucking long, and I don't like how much it's dragged out. If they did like a quick like, think of all the good I could do, like, and then there's like a little like flash of just like a bunch of like adult women in the shower with like soap covering up like their tits or anything.
Uh-huh.
And that's like just on screen for like a second or two, and there's just like giggling or whatever, and invisible Sanji's in the corner. Then
Give
I think
me the nosebleed, and then go on.
Yeah, just like get the nosebleed over and get it over with. But because it's like 4 like minutes long of just Sanji going like, I could peep on women in the shower. Again, it's just kind of, it's also kind of a predictable joke, I feel like. Because like I feel like anybody sort of at that age who's like single has thought about like, I could, if I'm invisible, then they can't see me looking at them while they're changing. which
And
it as a 30-year-old, yeah, it's
so
kind of just old.
we had that conversation on stream the other day because it's like
Hmm.
there are characters that just don't age well, like Moroku from Inuyasha, um,
Hmm.
which was like my gateway anime.
Hmm. I've
But
never watched any Yasha.
so there, I'm gonna spoil an entire character right now for you. Right?
Okay.
There's a character. He's a monk.
Hmm.
He rubs a female's ass every episode,
Oh boy.
unsolicited, unprompted. Oh yeah, it. You're gonna watch it. Like they
Hmm.
do the I hit them. Like Inuyasha has like the accidentally,
Hmm.
I accidentally stumbled on the girl while she's taking a bath in the lake. Ha
Hmm.
ha ha. I wasn't looking at you. I was trying to get the jewel that you have that would make me super powerful. That kind of
Yeah.
nonsense. But then you get his character, and his character's like, "Oh, I'm cursed. You need to make babies with me. I'm gonna rub your ass
Yeah.
because I will not be able to stop this in my lifetime." And it's
Mm.
like watching that. You're right. It was this thing I realized because what is Nami is like what 16 years old.
I think right now she is actually like 18. I think like at the youngest, I'd have to look this up, like how old Nami is, which I always feel
She's
icky
18
kind
when
of
she
doing.
first appears and 20 after the time skip.
Baller. So at the very least, she's of legal age, and I'm pretty sure Sanji's only like 20 right now. So it's
Okay.
not even like a huge age gap. I will say, I do, I kind of don't mind the joke that like Sanji sees Nami in a wedding dress and she's like, oh, she's a swan, she's a princess, she's a goddess, she's an angel. I don't mind that much. Again,
So
I think it goes on for a bit too long, but the fact that like he's able to like stop fighting just to like admire how beautiful Nami is, I think that's a little bit funny.
and then getting his ass kicked by what's her name in the last arc, um,
Mm,
because he's
Califa.
like yeah, I can't fight a girl, and it's like, dude, really? Like we could do so much more. Um,
They do more with that later, is what I'm gonna say. So don't like judge it out completely yet.
but the thing that I realized is when we started watching anime, so like going back to
Hmm.
like just the lecherous characters throughout
Hmm.
all anime, all shonen. If you're watching this as a 14-year-old and you're watching other high school students, I sit there and I go, "Oh, no, I can totally understand this and it feels less creepy to be
Hmm.
like, okay, 14-year-old me was really into Japanese high school girls. Why? Because they were the same age as me,
Yeah.
right? That makes sense. You're right. 30-year-old me watching like I'm sorry. I don't care that Nami's 20. She's still a child in my eyes and I would call her a
Hmm.
girl because I'd be like, "You don't have a mortgage yet. Like,
Yeah.
can you even rent a car?" "No, shut up. You're a child." And I feel like that's part of why some of these jokes now, like, "Can I see your panties?" And I'm like, that's never gonna be okay.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. It's more so the gag is more so to showcase just how crazy Brooke is, since like part of his backstory is that he spent like what 50 years alone, like as a skeleton with a bunch of other like dead skeletons that used to be his crew, and he even hallucinated about being with them still. People in real life went stir crazy after a couple months of being in lockdown and couldn't survive like going out to bars and shit. Meanwhile, Brooke had to endure not doing any of that for 50 years. So like the first time he like sees anybody who's alive, it's just sort of like I don't know, it's just sort of like a very human thing to want. And maybe yeah, it's not that funny. Maybe he should have just said, "Can you loan me some booze or something?" I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, like, when you say it like, oh, he's been alone for 50 years, and if he'd have been like, I would have taken like a kiss on the cheek or anything like that, but I think
Who
like
wants a
Robin would
hug?
be, yeah, I think like most of them would be kind enough to do that to him, or then you'd get like Luffy jumping on him, hugging him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like my only real thing about this. You know what joke I actually really enjoyed from this arc?
Which one? There's
Right
a
when
lot of
Moria,
good jokes here.
right when Moria creates Monster Luffy in Oars, and he's like, "I'm hungry," and they're feeding him all the food, and then it's like, "Oh, wait, don't let him eat the salted fish. Don't let him eat the salted fish because it would cure him." And they're just trying to get that away from him. I was gonna be like, oh, this is great if literally the first thing they do is he eats salted fish and cures himself. And it was just like watching them try to get it away from him. No, try this one. This one's so much better. And I did really enjoy that. This was also another massive win, in my opinion, for Usopp.
Oh yeah, because of his fight with Perona.
And
he got to whip out your favorite thing ever, Soka King.
So Usopp's character growth right now being the fact that he needs to kind of put on Soga King in order to be strong enough to do, like, to be the strong person that he was. I am actually like, okay, he has it in there. He knows he can't do it as well as everybody else.
Yep.
But he still is like, I can do this. I might have to put on the mask, but you know, which one of us doesn't mask when we go to work some days?
Exactly. That's the depressing truth of being in your 30s.
His fight and him being like, dude, he out depresses the ghosts, and the ghosts are getting depressed going through him.
That is also like an insanely good joke. Just like, oh, Sanji can't take her on, Zoro can't take her on, Nami can't take her on, Frankie can't take her on, but who else but Usopp could fucking fight her? And honestly, Usopp versus Perona is the best fight in this arc.
Because it shows that, like, just like his fight against Luffy, he goes all out, and I think he could theoretically, given a little bit of time, take on any villain that they come up against.
Probably. I do love the idea of Usopp just, like, eventually becoming, like, insanely powerful to the point where he could just, like, solo a bunch of, like, ridiculous opponents. That's always something that's just been really fun. Even though I think, like, the better idea is to just have him keep doing this Looney Tunes shit, where he has, like, this big inflatable hammer that's, like, 10 tons and stuff. I don't really like power scaling, but one thing that's always funny to me is that one image of, like, Naruto and Sasuke just bleeding out on the ground, just like, did we kill Luffy? No, Naruto, that was Usopp.
And that's, like, bringing that back to this, right? And so I kind of want to take the rest of this here, because I know we didn't cover Thriller Bark, but like I said, I think it was the fact that we have Moria was never really fighting Luffy till the very end. He would have his shadow do it, and he would just lay there like he was gluttony and sloth incarnate.
Yep.
And at every chance that, like, we were sitting there and I was watching it, I was like, you are the anti-Luffy. Luffy is like, no, I'm going to go in there and get this done. And and Moria's like, nope, I've got these minions. I choose zombies because I can always make more zombies, because he got beat in the new world.
Yes.
And rather than try to get better, he sits there and goes, nope, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to carve out this little area. Yeah. But the thing was, like, when we had Crocodile, Crocodile wanted something similar. He wanted the power, but he wanted to get it through subterfuge, like a politician.
Yes.
And all the other, like, I'm like, okay, so that's why he's there. And then you see Moria here, and it's like, Moria got beat. I don't know how Moria got beat, but I know he was beat. And then he sits there and goes, okay, well, I can create an endless army, and I'm just going to use that endless army to, like, hold down this area. I'm never going to get stronger. I don't want to get stronger. And if they kept Luffy, were they actually going to go try to take on in the new world, or were they going to stay there? I don't remember that. What was the goal with Oars?
I forget, honestly.
Let me go back, and I have the wiki pulled up. And yeah, I also liked that. One of the things that kind of, like, and it happens a lot, is you always get, like, the foil for the other characters.
Yeah.
Absalom, wasn't really, like, it felt like here that every character except for Usopp, because Usopp had to grow during Enies Lobby, and he grew by leaps and bounds. Every other character failed and fell short. Brook lost to himself. Granted, Zoro did beat that master swordsman who had the sword, and I like the fact that he was like, hey, I want your sword.
Yeah.
And the swordsman's like, well, you can't get it. He beats him, but even after beating him, giving Brook's shadow back, he sits there and goes, I'll find, somebody worthy in the land of Wano where they have swords, but this doesn't count. I just got your sword. And it's like, oh, okay, so even Zoro, who always puts in work, is like, no, I didn't win a fight here. Frankie really doesn't win a fight here.
Yeah, they don't. He's more so just like support for this arc, essentially.
As someone who mains support in almost every team-based game, I'm here for it. I like me a good character.
Yeah. He and Robin are kind of like the support characters for this arc.
But every other character, like, even, like, Chopper kind of loses to Hogback. It's everyone here loses, with the exception of Usopp. And this is where we see, like, nobody else is at the level to keep following Luffy except for maybe Usopp.
I don't know how much I agree with that personally. I think that it's more so Zoro's principle of just, this is not his sword. He is going to basically find somebody who is worthy of fighting in Wano, essentially.
What's he gonna do? Like, hand him that sword and then say, hey, I need to beat the shit out of you for this?
Not so much that. It's just that, well, here's something like to consider. Who was Ryoma before he died?
He was a master swordsman. I knew that. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. So, more so, you're gonna see him, like, use the sword, I'm pretty sure. But that sword is just something that, like, he's borrowing. He doesn't plan on keeping it for the rest of his life. Sorry, there was a bug.
No, you're good.
And then, I don't know how, like, Sanji or Chopper lose. I think Chopper honestly kind of gets like the most probably unconventional win because it's more so a battle of ideas between him and Hogback,
Mm-hmm.
where Hogback has like this like actress zombie who's basically just doing his bidding, but Chopper tries to have her snap out of it and just go against Hogback. That's at least from what I remember.
For the most part, he does. Except I would say for at the end of it, you learn that it's like the plates wasn't even from the actress. It was the person that they stole the shadow from. So seeing that it's like, oh, you cannot take two things to create a whole new person. Like unless it is like two hard parts of the same whole, it's just not gonna work as well together. Yeah, I don't. Have we seen anything on Ryoma before this? I pulled it up and.
He's gonna become important in Wano, basically.
Okay, cool. Because I pulled it up, and I'm like, oh, that looks like a Wano look, and then I just got back out of it. I was like, okay.
There's also like a short like miniseries anime on Netflix called Monsters. That's also about Ryoma, and like a lot of like Zoro's ancestry. So I'd say like maybe check it out if like you're still wanting more and you're done with Wano basically, because I think it does like kind of spoil a few things in Wano, but that's neither here nor there.
I'll wait till we get to Wano. And then but so he gets that sword, but so he's saying he's just holding onto that sword. It's not his sword. But so none of his swords are his sword. Like he's got his old rival's sword. And he has one sword was destroyed by the rust guy, and then the other sword, I can't remember which one was destroyed. Is it the one that he bought or the one that was given to him and the guy's like, no, this sword can't stay here, it needs to go with you. And it was like two cursed blades.
The sword that was like destroyed by the guy with the rust fruit, that was just an unnamed sword. He still has the one from Logtown.
Okay.
So it should be the Wadoichi Moji, which is like his childhood friend's sword. The Sengeki Tetsu, which I'm pretty sure is like the name. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it right, but that's the one that he got in Logtown. And now this one now this one that he has from Thriller Bark, from Ryuma.
Okay. It was the Yubashiri was the other one that he had. And then the Sandai Ketsu, I'm assuming the sushi. Whatever the current one is, yeah. Okay. I'm going to scroll up so I don't see past that. Yep. But yeah, because I noticed that it's like what makes this one so special is it is a black sword with a reversed saw tamper on it. Which is what makes it like one of the special black blades. Which I'm actually really excited for that one to actually get explained, because I know like the white one is a pure one, and that's why the one captain wants it. And the other ones are like cursed blades that are very different.
Yes.
So I'm excited for those. So I guess kind of to round this one out, Luffy beats them, and then we get to, and this is the other portion here, and the reason I say nobody else other than, Usopp / Soga King really won in a battle here, is because we get the Tyrant Kuma who comes in.
Yes. Hang on 1 second.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to give people an opportunity to pause. Kuma's very relevant in the anime and manga right now, and shit, bro, it's sad for him. So just giving the people who are all caught up a chance to, collect themselves since they have to think about Kuma right now.
Him showing up was terrifying.
Yeah, it was.
So and here's the other thing that I think. So going back real quick to go to going back to I asked you earlier how far you were in Hunter x Hunter.
Hunter.
All right. So Hunter x Hunter, I think, does such an insane job at showing you how far someone has been in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas like a lot of things, it's like, okay, they level up, they get to their next form, the next villain comes into it. But Hunter x Hunter gives you a benchmark the entire way in the form of Hisoka.
Yeah.
So you meet Hisoka, who is Gon's foil. And
you meet him at like the beginning, but he's like relevant in every arc, basically.
He's fighting. He's like, I'm gonna take the hunter exams. I'm gonna be a hunter because you can be a serial killer and be a hunter, which is so insane in that world. And we get to see Hisoka come in, and he kind of messes with the team a little bit, and then Gon's like, I'm gonna fight you, and he goes, hey Gon, you did a good job. Don't worry about your friends here. They also passed the test. I'm a secret. I'm a secret proctor of the test. Drops off his friends. Then we see him later. Then fast forward, Hisoka and Gon actually have to fight because Gon gets his badge, and they go to Heaven's Tower. And at Heaven's Tower is where you learn that, like, hey, there's this mystical property out there called Nen, and it's the energy force of the thing. And you learn that Gon has felt it. Like, they all have kind of felt that it's there, and it's just like, oh, this person gives me, like, the heebie-jeebies, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this, like, I don't know why. And then we get to see, like, when Gon and Killua were like, we're going to go to the next floor. And Hisoka's there, and he's like, no, you're not. And you just watch him show how powerful he has always been.
He's the gatekeeper.
You watch him in the beginning of the entire series, and he's always trouncing them. Like, any fight is not a real fight. And you're like, okay, what's up with Hisoka? Going to, like, Naruto, where it's like, the best way to explain it,
new badge shows up like every week,
and then it's like, by the way, I'm just a god, I can drop meteors. So one thing that this has done so well, and what I think makes Kuma showing up so great, is one, we've seen the Buster Call, and the Buster Call is 4 rear admirals with 10 battleships showing up to fight they can destroy
basically
an island.
Destroy an entire island.
And you're like, okay, but what is it really? And that's where we get to see that it's both, yes, they're using cannons and explosives, but the rear admirals are not a joke. And we get to see that with Kuzan Aokiji, or Aokiji.
Aokiji, yeah. Aokiji.
When he shows up and just goes, hey, Luffy, I'm glad you're going to fight for your friend. This isn't a fight. And I need you to know that.
It's just a one-sided beatdown.
Moria, like, Moria, we get Kuma showing
Moria is
up.
like the JRPG fight where everybody comes together with the power of friendship, basically. But Kuma is the reality check.
But like, Kuma comes in and you're like, oh god, and 2 people vanish. But what I think is done so well is that we already know that insane power like this exists, and that it always makes sense. You just need to figure out what's going on with it.
Yeah.
And I think, because he shows up and he destroys, oh god, what was her name?
Oh, Perona?
Perona's just like, we're leaving, and he's like, yeah, but you're not though. And I was like, okay, that's a fight. That like, and not, and you don't even see what happens. But then Nami sees him, and it's like, hey, you're cat burglar Nami, and Nami's like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I am cat burglar Nami, and he's like, oh, he's like, you're on the Straw Hat crew, and she's like, yep, that's also a factually correct statement. And then she's like, how'd he get there? How did he teleport from point A to point B?
It's probably the closest we get to something like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or Chainsaw Man, where it's just like you're trying to just comprehend what the power this man has even is. And I think that's kind of really cool. There is an explanation for everything, like later down the line, that some of it we'll get to here, some of it we'll talk about in the next podcast episode. But yeah, the fact that Kuma shows up immediately as Moria is defeated on the ground. And it honestly makes sense because, like, you know, why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they, like, try to, like, take down the Straw Hats, like, just after they had a big-ass battle that wiped everybody clean, basically?
And I like the fact that it was Moria, or Kuma came there and went to Moria and was like, hey, just so you know, these guys defeated Crocodile. Crocodile's not a joke. You're not a joke. And the world government is going to be like, hey, we can't have warlords if they're just going to get beaten every time the Straw Hats come up, and it's going to look really bad.
Exactly.
And Mori even goes like, hey, you're the only warlord that actively listens to the world government. Like, we all do things so that way we're not bothered by them. But you are a government dog. And he's like, okay, so you don't want my help. And Moria's like, no, kind of, you know, piss off. I really don't want your help. I don't need your help. And then we get to the fight, and he's like, all right, Moria lost. You guys get him out of here. Get him back to the world government. We cannot have, like, we can't just have, like, we're going to lose our power and our standing. And then Kuma's like, okay, I guess I have to wipe out the Straw Hats now. But he gets Zoro comes in and, like, beats, you know, knocks out Sanji and is like, nope, I'm going to fight him. I'm going to make sure that we can defeat him. Yep. And this is where
everybody else is just, like, on the floor unconscious. Luffy's honestly, like, not even involved here. And it's insane what we get. Because, again, like you said, this is not a fight at all. This is, like, Kuma just shows up. Pretty much everybody except for Zoro and Sanji are just immediately floored. And now it's basically just a negotiation of Kuma wanting to just take Luffy and turn him in and just be done with it. Whereas Zoro and Sanji are basically at each other's throats and Kuma's throat to just be like, look, we'll let Luffy stay here. You can take any of us. We will be fine. No, Sanji, you can't sacrifice yourself. Let me sacrifice myself, etc. It's a negotiation with the devil, basically. Which is ironic, because Kuma holds a Bible the entire time.
And one of the things that I'm trying to... Hang on a second. because it's a paw that's on it.
Yep. He has the powers of the pawpaw fruit.
But what I'm trying to figure out is, what is the joke?
What do you mean?
So the gum fruit is like, oh, I can, I can stretch. I'm like a gummy rubber person, right?
Right.
And the petal fruit that Robin has, she like can blossom her arms and hands. But can we talk about arm wing Robin? Holy fuck! I never want to see that shit again. God, that was disgusting.
Really? You don't
know.
You don't like the wings?
Flesh wing Robin is not what I would call like high on my like peak character design, and that's not even like going for like take away the Rule 34. I just say flesh winged Robin is not it is so gross looking.
I mean, really? I never thought of it like that.
Oh, go back. I just
think it's like a cool power.
It is.
He, like, occasionally,
it's really gross.
I want you to know, birds have flesh wings too.
Yeah, I don't have to see them.
You think birds are gross?
I mean, sometimes, yeah, they can be pretty disgusting, but like...
Okay, but just because there aren't feathers on her wings doesn't mean they're gross.
As somebody who's got chicken marinating upstairs... Fleshwing Robin. But so like the straw fruit, or I'm sorry, not the straw. That's the pawpaw fruit.
The pawpaw
is it like it's the ability to send things flying or repel all things. Right. And this is where I have to say, holy shit, is Oda so insanely intelligent, because at one point he like just goes, hey, I'm gonna compress time and space and force them in on themselves to the point where they might almost collapse, and then have them expand out to create like a concussive blast. Or the fact that he's like, okay, I'm gonna remove all of the pain that Luffy's feeling and put it in a bubble. And Zoro makes the deal. He's like,
free if he just takes all of the pain and that Luffy has endured for the entire like arc, basically. And Kuma is just sort of like, if you, Zoro, can withstand all of the pain Luffy has been like given for this entire night, because this entire arc took place over the course of one night, then I will let you all go. This might kill you, but at the very least, Luffy will be saved, and you will have proven that you do actually care about your captain this much.
I think he even told him, like, no, you will die at the state that you're in, but you said it's a life for a life. And then he goes, by the way, and I like the fact that he doesn't sit there and go, just put your hands in there. He goes, he really tests who Zoro is, because he gives Zoro, he goes, this is but a fraction of it. And it looks like Zoro's body is getting ripped from the inside out.
Yeah, it looks like he's about to like go on the floor just from the little like taste of pain that he was like given by Kuma. And Luffy's like pain bubble is like twice the size of Zoro, at least, and I'm being conservative here.
And he goes up and does it after knocking Sanji out, and then Sanji finds him, and they're like, how did you get covered in blood? What the fuck is going on? You were pretty fine when I left you. And we get the line, nothing happened.
There we go. So this is a moment that I'm pretty sure you, like, have heard of before you got here, but you didn't know the context of.
Yeah, for anyone who's a big like anime rapper fan, Rustage on YouTube has it's his Shonen Jump 2 rap cipher where he says something about Zord, he goes, and then turn around and be like nothing happened, and that's how he closes his verse out with him. And I'm like, okay, that goes hard. I don't know what it is, but that goes hard.
And did this moment like live up to the hardness of the line?
Zoro, the nothing happened, the taste of what happened, and just like what Luffy has endured, because like I said, this arc to me was the reality check for every member of of the Straw Hat crew to be like, you guys aren't, Luffy is at the level that you all need to get to.
Right.
And this was just, nope, like you guys aren't that, and that's why I said like nobody else kind of won here. But
okay,
Luffy,
this is what you meant then.
Sogeking.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you, because this is not a victory for the Straw Hats in the slightest.
Yeah, this is the like, you guys want to go to the New World, you guys are like, we're gonna be like the greatest, the power of friendship. And Kuma goes, it hasn't been the power of friendship, it's been Luffy the entire time. And it's just like, you're right, like the rest of the Straw Hats, they need to figure out something to be better. Like, you can be a support character, you can be the healer and the doctor, but boy, do you need to get a lot better at everything that you do in order to get there. And so I guess the other thing here that I kind of want to end off on, because that is the end of it. We get to see Laboon, we get to see Brooks past.
No, we don't get to skip Binks' sake. Don't you dare.
Okay. I was actually gonna tie that in towards for the end of it here.
Okay, never mind then.
Or I think they translate to Binks booze. Which
it's a lot of different translations. Some people say Binks' sake, some people say Binks' booze, some people say Binks' brew.
Ooh, that one's a good one too.
Yeah.
I like the alliteration of the BB, so that's why I'm like...
Binks' booze is also just the most fun to say.
But I like that he starts playing that, pulls out the shell, the recording dial, and it's like, oh, you've been there? And the Straw Hats are like, yeah, we were there too. Like, I like that it says, this is why Brook deserves to be with the Straw Hats.
Yep.
Is he's gone through an incredibly challenging place that they went through and made it out the other side.
Yeah.
And the fact that on the recording was the last thing that his band ever played. And they all start dropping off towards the end of it.
And one of the saddest lines in One Piece. It seems we're down to a quartet. Trio. Duet.
A duet.
Solo. And then it's just like, that's like one of my like most tearjerker lines, honestly. I lose it when I hear that.
It was such a good, like, okay, now we understand the loneliness that he has felt after playing in a band.
And the fact that like he's in high spirits despite all of this, because really, what else can he really do? What else does he have? It's just sort of like the fact that like his last song was this big, jaunty, celebratory tune, and not just like, it could have very easily been just like a sad, tragic aria or anything, but because it's like it's our sea shanty of One Piece, and it's like joyous. It's something that like everybody's supposed to like holler and like sing, like even if you're like off key or whatever. And
I love the fact that Luffy goes, hey, I know this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Shanks and his crew used to sing this all the time.
Mm-hmm. Also, fun little detail of the live action is that they actually do have this song like playing like an instrumental version, just like in the background for any flashback between Luffy and Shanks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of what I wanted to end on, um, because like we did go through that. I also like the fact that I know I did watch the filler
Mm-hmm.
of like
Oh, the
the
spa.
spa island, and I was like, ah, convenient place for the crew to rest up.
Uh-huh.
All right, fine.
And then Foxy showed up.
And then Foxy shows up, and I'm like, I thought you said that he kind of doesn't come back. And
Canonically, he doesn't. He shows up in
um,
filler. I think the filler is like the only time like Foxy shows back up.
but then there's the episode where Brooke's like, oh, I want to, I need to figure out how I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do this, and you know, he tries to help Sanji and ends up like damn near ruining
Mm-hmm.
everything. Tries to help poor tea for Nami, spills tea all over her
Her
map and wipes it
charts.
clean. Tries to help out, you know,
Chopper.
Frankie and Usopp, mixes soy sauce with cola. That doesn't go well.
Mm-hmm.
And we just get this like, okay, he doesn't fit in, and you know, he sits there and looks at he looks at Luffy and goes, hey, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? And he goes, no, you asked, and this is, I said yes, like I've already decided, we don't need to talk about this is how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts playing uh Binks booze again,
Mm-hmm.
and just plays it quietly, and you just watch how it connects every member because they all know this song. Like I'm
Yeah.
hoping he learns more. Um,
He does. Don't
but
worry.
have you ever read The Name of the Wind, or the What Wise Men Fear by Patrick Rothfuss?
I have not.
Um, they're really good. Like, I don't want to say like dark fantasy, but they're not high fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the entire long and short of it, there's a point in it where the main character is going to go talk to this goddess, and she is like,
Right.
you know, most beautiful, blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
And she sits there and she's like, look, I'll let you stay the night with me if you can play me a song that, you know, moves me to tears, or makes me feel different. And everyone's like, okay, like let's play this insanely elaborate symphony for her. And he
Mm-hmm.
goes, no, she's a goddess. Everyone comes to her with like this incredibly complex. So he picks like a bar song. Like it'd be like the
Oh.
equivalent of like everyone being like, okay, I'm gonna play Beethoven, and I'm gonna play Sweet Caroline, and he just plays it like a little soft and somber, and it's so well done, and I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love it. And like if you've never read them, they're fantastic reads. Highly recommend them. But that's what Binks Booze feels like when it comes to connecting everyone. Is like,
Yeah.
it's a very simple. You're right. It's a sea
Mm-hmm.
shanty. It's simple, but it's beautiful and elegant in that simplicity.
Exactly. It's just sort of like there's so like kind of want to like formulate this. It's just sort of like how music is kind of just the universal language, and how everybody on the crew is supposed to sort of cement an idea of freedom in a certain way, and just being able to have freedom in music as well with Brooke. I love that, and I will never like not defend Brooke as like a straw hat. Like he is really good, and I think there are some people who do think that like he's one of the like lesser important characters in One Piece. I don't necessarily agree or disagree here. I definitely think that like Luffy is definitely the most important, obviously, but Brook, I feel like, can tie the crew together because I feel like any dynamic that he has is ultimately like pretty friendly.
I feel
And
like
yeah,
Brook and Sanji are the same level. Like,
yeah,
food connects everyone, music connects the rest of them.
mm-hmm.
Um, so, yeah, to kind of go off of this, do you care if we circle back to the character thing real quick?
Go ahead.
So, one of the
Careful.
things that, I'm sitting here drinking tea, getting choked up about how great the music is that connects us all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the things that I think I've also really come to appreciate with Oda's writing, and particularly with One Piece, is I said earlier that it's like, okay, we have, um, we have, why is Luffy running into this character now? Why is this villain located where they are? And
Mm-hmm.
how will he get past them? Why isn't the villain doing more than they have all this power, what have you? So I've got a prediction based on this, and I know I explained this to you. So one, I do feel like One Piece does, like, I'm betting the next arc, um,
Mm-hmm.
and like I'm talking over because I know there are a lot of mini arcs, is going to
Yeah.
be a political arc. So,
Okay.
um, I think it's going to be like, hey, we've done political intrigue, we did
Mm-hmm.
like fun pirate adventure, political intrigue with Alabasta, fun
Mm-hmm.
pirate adventure, political intrigue. Now we're back to, we just finished a fun pirate.
Yeah. So now
So
the next like major saga is going to be political intrigue.
and I think we have to start tackling, we one we know that Shanks was captured, or not Shanks. We know that Ace was captured.
Ace.
And
And
Shanks
also,
told Whitebeard that was going to happen.
mm-hmm. And
Um,
then something we also kind of glossed over is that this is our proper introduction to Vivre cards in One Piece.
yeah, the card that, because I had to go
Mm-hmm.
back and rewatch that episode where Ace gives Luffy like a card that goes like, this will tell you how someone's doing,
Mm-hmm.
and he checks it and the card is on fire
Mm-hmm. In this arc.
in this arc. And I thought that is Ace's card, correct?
Yeah, the one that Luffy basically has on him that's like kind of moving a little bit and it's on fire currently.
Yes. So
That
that
is
is
Ace's.
that. Okay, so that represents Ace. So when I
Mm-hmm.
originally thought it, I was like, oh fuck, Luffy's got to get to a, because I thought it was like, because at one point they said like Luffy was burning through himself, and I thought that was representative of Luffy like burning through his energy because he's
Mm-hmm. He's
he
exerting himself a lot.
yeah, and they were worried about that. Um, but there are a couple of characters that we've met and we haven't really gone back to. Um,
Hmm.
so Blackbeard has fought Ace, and
Yeah.
Blackbeard apparently won. I thought that was like a stalemate, and they both like limped off because Blackbeard's really new with his power, and I think his power is ultimately probably stronger than Ace's, but Ace has that. Um, we really haven't talked to Shanks and seen Whitebeard. Um,
Hmm.
so like Blackbeard, I'm so excited because it's like he is Luffy, his crew is weird,
Mm-hmm.
but he's when we met him during the Bellamy fight, and he sits there and goes, Bellamy's not even a real pirate. Like, you're right, Luffy. Don't listen to him. So
Yeah.
I have a theory that like, so I know Shanks lost an arm, and when
Mm-hmm.
Dracula goes to fight him, he goes, "You here to fight me?" And he goes, "No, you really haven't been fun since you lost your arm."
Yeah. That's right.
But
He does do that. But
that being said, when he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go bring um really good booze from my hometown, and I'm gonna
mm-hmm.
give it to Whitebeard as like this like it was like a matcha ceremony so that way we can kind of talk like people, because they're not supposed to. They've never met before, and they're not supposed to meet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Shanks and Whitebeard represent the limit of, like, the limit that Luffy could get to, where people would understand if they stopped. I understand that Whitebeard probably has more because we haven't seen anything. I know we haven't really gotten to hockey or...
Yeah. Honestly, you learning about hockey this early on has kind of been like the biggest wrench in everything. If I'm being real.
Well,
because
I mean, it's...
there are times like in previous episodes where you're like, oh, that has to be hockey, and I just like am kind of with my hand on my head, just like, no, this isn't hockey. You're not supposed to know that yet.
but now I know what hockey is, because when Shanks goes to visit, though, I think it's like one of the mates sits there and goes, hey guys, all you new people, please go below deck. This isn't going to go well for you. And they're like, no, we're going to sit here. And they just start fucking passing out.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. But what I think that we're really looking at here is, like, Shanks, Hawk, they are the pinnacle of like, wherever they're at, they are the best of the best. Like, they are where Luffy wants to be. But I don't think as of yet that any of them have the ambition to truly be what Luffy is. And I think that they are, like, artificially, or they are the people that have, like, capped themselves. Like, Zoro's like, I want to be the best swordsman, so I know I need to grow and go to other places.
Whereas Mihawk is just sort of like, he is the best already, but he's more so just maintaining his power right now.
Yeah, and there's no point in it where it's like he wants to get better, but it's like, but Zoro wants to get better. And I don't know if it was in this anime or if it was in something else I was watching. Oh, I think it was actually Haikyuu, where it's like like the difference between these two characters is this person only wants to get to where I'm at, the other person wants to surpass it.
Right.
And that's where I think we're going to start to see, like, Whitebeard, like, he's imposing, and I'm excited to see him be really cool, but that's why his crew is ultimately going to lose to Blackbeard. That's why Mihawk is going to lose to Zoro. That's why Shanks is going to, like, be like, you know what? This is a young kid's game. I think I think Shanks will quit.
Okay.
Before, like, something really terrible can happen to him. I think Whitebeard will go out fighting, but I think Shanks has already kind of been like, you know what? I'm a great pirate. I will always be a strong pirate. I'm going to enjoy being a pirate with my friends. But he is capped there. And I think that that's where... That's the other side of the coin.
I can see that. You can... I'm not going to say whether or not you're right or wrong, but I will say it is kind of like, you are kind of right in that this is kind of a generational thing, where it's like you have the new generation of pirates like Luffy and Zoro who want to
the new big
up.
Three?
Pretty much. And then you have the people... It's okay. But then you also have, like, the newer... Or rather, you have, like, the older generation who have already, like, achieved what they are. So now they're just, like, waiting for somebody to surpass them, kind of. I'm not going to say, like, how right or wrong you are in that regard, but that is kind of... That's, like, what, from what I understand, what you're trying to say, is that, like, we're seeing the new generation rise to the top to basically to just basically, like, surpass what has already been established, essentially.
Yeah. but yeah, that's those are my theories. I'm very excited for. I think the next arc. Someone like people
it's
have been like, "Oh, where are you
Archipelago!
at?" Oh, I thought it was the war arc.
You know what? Screw it. It's the start of the war arc.
Okay, so.
And we're going to be dividing that up into 3 because no way in hell are we able to, like, do it all in, like, even just 2, I think.
Oh, this is the one with the other swordsman that joins the Straw Hats. That's apparently not a Straw Hat.
What?
I don't know. There's a guy with a hat that hangs out with Luffy for a while, and
him.
He sits there and they go, "Hey, would you betray me?" And he goes, "No." And they're like, "You can't just do that."
Okay, yeah. You're gonna meet Trafalgar Law soon.
I'm really excited to meet him because he looks cool, and people are like, "Yeah, he's another like Straw Hat Crew guy," and I'm like, "Oh, cool! I've seen him on things."
He's I wouldn't call him a Straw Hat. He is very cool, and he is a fan favorite character.
But he's not Straw Hat.
No, I'm just gonna say this right now. He is not a Straw Hat.
Okay. But yeah, so I'm excited to be there. I'm excited for. So, you know who I actually want to see more than anything else now?
What?
I want to see Kobe. I just want to keep. I want like more check-ins with Kobe.
Okay.
Because meeting Garp was really cool, and the fact that Kobe was like,
is kind of his
it was
protege.
like, and he's doing like Lucci things. Obviously not as like ruthless as Lucci, but he's doing the Lucci things, and I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I can't wait for next episode of this.
It'll probably happen pretty quick. Let me see real quick. This looks like this is only 21 episodes.
Yeah. This is This is going to be like next episode of this podcast that I'm on is going to be like the shortest one, but like the 2 that come after it are going to be like way longer.
Oh, the next one's like the Amazon Lily.
Yeah, so I don't know. I may as well just spoil this like right now. Next episode is just going to be Sabo the Archipelago. Okay. Then after that, it's going to be Amazon Lily and Impel Down, and then after that, Marineford post-war.
Oh, is this where we meet Boa Hancock?
At Amazon.
That looks like. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There are all these characters
You're not
that
supposed
like
to know who that is yet.
I think it's because people are like, wait, like. So you and I hang out on the internet.
Yeah.
And you tell someone that they're like, and like typically one of the things that always happens, especially like super late night gaming session or anything like that, is like, so have you met Boa yet? And I'm like,
oh,
oh, okay, like, dude, I'm married, like,
yeah.
Do I sit there and
Boa
do I sit there and go,
has fans? Is what I'm gonna say.
So I've heard, and it's like I know a lot of people are like, dude, wait till you get post time skip Robin or not Robin, Nami, and I'm like, cool.
I'm not. It's like that. Meanwhile, you're just like that one meme that's just like, I'm not watching One Piece to come, bro.
Yeah. It's, yeah, that's just one of the things that I'm just like, okay. I'm excited to meet the law character because I'm excited for the scene of like, would you betray me? No. Okay, we're good. I'm excited to see that in context.
Yeah.
But yeah. What are you up to?
I'm playing the new Legend of Zelda right now. That's just sort of consuming my life.
Oh, the actual one about Zelda.
Yes. Echoes of Wisdom. It's really good. And also, I'm currently going through my Dandadan brain rot, so that's fun.
We might have to tackle that after that season's over. I think that'd be a fun one.
It will be fun. I love I love like the two tweets that you made like yesterday. That's just like, oh, I'm watching Dawn to Dawn. My wife sat down with me and went like, oh, this is like actually kind of sentimental. And then like 15 seconds later, she was just like, who recommended this to you? And you were just like, Mark did. And then she was just like, oh, this is extremely weird. And then left. And I can
Yep.
basically pinpoint as to like when she did that.
Sorry, yeah, it was a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah. You watched it subbed, right? The first episode?
No, I watched it dubbed.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. I was going to say a fun fact about the voice actors.
Oh, go ahead. What's the fun fact about the voice actors?
Okay, so you know Turbo Granny, like the ghost that's in that first episode?
Yes.
In Japanese, same voice actor as Luffy.
Oh, so the same voice actor as Krillin.
Yeah. And then
I want
the aliens in that episode, they have the same voice actor as Zoro.
Huh.
So if you rewatch the episode subbed, you will hear Luffy saying, "I'll let you suckle my teats if you let me gobble your weenie," and you can hear Zoro say, "Give us your banana organ."
Yeah. So everything left before that, and that is one of the anime where I'm like, it's almost as bad as Chainsaw Man, where it's like, no, it's this really hyper violent. Okay, I swear to God, it has been nothing but a guy with a chainsaw head carving people up. I don't know when it switched to this, but it did. But yeah, and then to let everyone else know, hey, congratulations! The Wrong Button podcast has officially passed 1,000 downloads of all time. So that's completely agnostic of YouTube and everything there. And I will let you know, Mark, that some of the most popular episodes are the One Piece episodes,
Let's fucking go.
where occasionally I'll get comments of like, "Hey, this is like your opinion's bad," or like, "Wait till you get to this." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna read any of these guys. Like, if you guys can't, like hold on to that one." They're pretty tame on most of it, but like,
okay.
I know like Join the Crew was a good one, and a lot of people like the Alabasta one surprisingly got a lot of like listen tos with how it is. But yeah, are you doing anything on Medium anytime coming out?
I keep saying I'm still doing my JoJo articles, so the next one, I know I said this last time, next one should be out soon.
Okay.
I just
was waiting
got
for you to...
like blindsided by some real life stuff, but I'm fine now. So
glad that you are. If you need anything, always yell. I don't know why I plugged that one in there. And then to let everyone else know, and to make sure that Mark is well aware of his pending responsibilities.
Yep.
We are also raising money for Extra Life. So if you guys do enjoy yourself some Extra Life and want to see Mark watch something completely out of context, at $750, Mark will have to watch G Gundam for his first Gundam, but the English dub.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find a good one of that.
Okay. I also should say this right now. I am basically going into this blind. I think I watched like a Gundam anime on Cartoon Network when I was a kid in the 2000s, but I remember like next to nothing about that.
Which is good. That one is completely fine. So yeah, really excited for that one.
So this could be like a masterclass in anime dubs, or it could be like the worst thing ever. I don't know.
It's a fun time capsule.
Okay. I'm expecting a lot of like early anime dub cheese, so maybe that statement will age well, maybe it won't. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. But yeah, to to round this one out, thank you guys so much for listening with us. Don't forget you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check us out over on Twitch or YouTube/The Wrong Button, where you can listen to this, as well as all of your streaming platforms of choice. Thank you again, Mark, for joining me for this.
Thanks for having me again.
Not summary version, but let's talk about character version, and I'm excited for the next couple arcs.
I am too.
Remember that you're all winners out there. Keep it weird, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. And we can stop here.